Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the first 2025 edition of the Woke Bros. Of course, I'm your host, Big Waz, aka Wazing Lambre. And thank you guys for being up here with us, man. We were supposed to come back next week, but as you guys know, the fires in LA were just like really crazy. And last week, Thursday, was such a precarious time, man. So we kicked the can down the road to have our debut of the year this week. Y'all know I've been living here since September of 2017. I've come to consider this place my home, have a decent amount of roots here in terms of like, not just the vast majority of my work that I do is here, like my career and stuff, but like people that I really have a lot of love and connection to, um friends that I've made here, friends that have moved here like really like right before and after me, man. Like I really have been able to, craft a decent little slice of life here with people in connection and community that I really care about. And, when you're connected to that many people, whether it's them directly or people that they're close to, like people like one of my close homies, his sister lost her crib, out in Altadena. Two of my coworkers lost a family house, like the family home that she grew up in, her parents' home was taken away. And, Yasi Salik, one of our ringer hosts, she lost her actual home where she lives right now. Just crazy, just a crazy amount of loss, man, a crazy amount of loss. I know Nando, one of his work colleagues lost the house in the Palisades. Just, like it was just like sort of a lot of fear of um there was a lot of fear of like what the hell is going to happen next. It just felt like this thing was just like, whoa, this felt like all encompassing. And then, on Thursday, man, sort of waking up to the news of like the actual loss, like what people, like what went up in smoke, man, like people's family heirlooms. And like, you could say that like these things are just material things, but they're tied to actual feelings and memories that people actually had. And that loss, man, that I'm not gonna lie, like coming to terms with that and reading the different accounts of the stuff that people lost, that hit me like a ton of bricks. It was like a very, emotional couple of days for me, man. Like I didn't, I don't think I've ever gone through a natural disaster to this extent. Not at all. I think Sandy in New York was terrible. But this is not even close. And so yeah, man, it was just a crazy week. Obviously, these fires ain't even out yet. Like the city's still managing with it. Um, I know you guys watch enough news to know, like, in terms of what LA, like the mayor and the city government and the state government, have they done enough and blah blah blah. Like, I think these guys could have done better. Like, and I think like if they did better, a lot of things would be, would have been handled a lot more smoothly. It probably would have been a decent amount less loss. But don't get it twisted. Like the perfect storm of, no freaking rain, insane winds, the amount of nature that is here in LA, like, this was going to be a disaster. And so, yeah, like obviously, I think the state has so many people want to live here. It's expensive for a reason. Like it's a beautiful place, so much natural beauty, so many great people, so many things the state and the city of LA have to offer. It's amazing. I will say that first and foremost. But there are some shortcomings, and I do think a lot of the shortcomings are a failure of management, of state government, local government, and y'all know y'all mess with what we do up here enough to know that like it's a failure of the Democratic Party. Y'all know I'm not ashamed to say that. Like, I know that the Republicans are taking their little political victory laps, which I think is quite disgusting. While people are going through this level of loss and hurt. But it's not as if they're saying stuff that's not true. There's just a lot of mismanagement in the state, and the people that are powerful in the state are the Democrats. They are basically have a monopoly on the power here, and so when things go wrong, there's nobody else to blame. It's not like national government, where you could be like, oh, they're railroading us in the House. The obstructionists, the GOP is obstructionist. Blah blah. That's not the case here. And so I understand the impulse to blame these guys for a lot of the mistakes, but like, don't get it twisted, man. This thing was going to happen because of nature, because of the changing of the climate. We had like so much rain the past two winters here in LA. So like that contributes to like even more brush. So you combine that up crazy amount of rain, more vegetation. And then we have this crazy ass drought. So like, no humidity, no moisture, insane winds, like whatever, perfect storm for a disaster. But yeah, that's it with that, man. Like, yeah, it's been super heartening to see all the people like step up in terms of providing services and goods to the people that have been affected. Like the amount of restaurants like that's giving people food and people stepping up to house folks temporarily, if not permanently. Um, I think one of the cool things the government has done is be like, you price gouging motherfuckers. We're going to prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law because that shit is already illegal. I think that's nice. But yeah, it's been super heartening to see the amount of people that just step up in the tragedy. Like, it's really cool to see. Like, I do think a lot of times, living here, you can feel alienated from the city if you don't have, if you're not set up to not be. It can feel like a very lonely place. Like you are doing this shit by yourself in LA. It can oftentimes feel that way. However, man, in the wake of this tragedy, the entire city it feels like has stepped up to the point where they're like turning away volunteers at some of these spots, man. So many people have stepped up to the plate to be there for people in their time of need. The only thing that I will say, it just kills me that we have to do restoration in such a piecemeal manner, where we don't have the infrastructures in place in the richest country in the history of planet Earth, that is basically on individual citizens collectively to pick this thing up when we know we got the resources. And the bottom line is, y'all, and if this Trump thing is showing me one thing, when the titans of industry, freaking Apple, Zuckerberg, Elon, they go run into the government. They go running to kiss Trump's ass. It ain't no every man for themselves, bootstrap, do it yourself. Oh, all the government can do is get in the way. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, we need less government. Blah, blah, blah. All of that crap you hear from these libertarian ghouls, these psychopaths, all of that do for yourself stuff. Man, listen, they went running to Donald Trump because why? They want his help. All of a sudden, the government can be useful. The government can even be helpful and impactful. Look at that. Go figure. Imagine that. Imagine that, y'all. Imagine that. And so, it's crazy. But yeah, just watching this thing unfold. This, like, obviously the loss is horrible, but it is cool that it is cool to see. Like I said, it is heartening to see the way our fellow citizens are stepping up to the plate, man. And just being there for people. Like, that shit is not gonna lie, it's made me really emotional the past few days to see how people have stepped up. But I do want to get into some of the news of the day, guys. I'm gonna get into the Gaza thing at some point, just give y'all off, because like there's a lot of stuff floating around with that, but I do want to offer y'all a bit of analysis. But I want to start with this TikTok situation because I find it to be quite hilarious, to be honest with y'all. And sure, if you could put that on the screen for me, man. Donald Trump is said to consider executive order to circumvent the TikTok ban. Now, I want to just take you guys back on a trip down memory lane. If you guys don't remember, just bear with me here for a little bit. So Trump's administration, 2017 to 2021, he's the one that introduces this sort of hawkish posture towards China. This idea that we need to reorient ourselves to a sort of Cold War posture, a recognition that there's another great power out there, and we need to do what these folks in like foreign policy circles call great power competition. We need to orient ourselves in a hostile posture towards China because they're our biggest enemy, and for the next 50 to 100 years, they're who we're going to be fighting against for global hegemony. And if we don't hegemony, and if we don't, that word always fucks me up. Sorry, y'all. And if we don't do something about it starting now, we need to do that. So this flies in the face of basically Richard Nixon détente, basically opening up China, what they call that, which is like 1972 or something, if I'm mixing up my dates, sorry, to goddamn 2017-18. It's like China's our partner on the global stage. Like, they supply us with cheap ass labor, which our freaking oligarchs love, no matter if it decimates places like the Rust Belt in the Midwest. Our oligarchs are addicted to cheap labor. China, they got it, or they had it in spades, and we just love that exchange, right? In China, whatever. China's made themselves into a global power, whatever. And Trump's like, yo, we hate China. Okay, cool. Joe Biden comes in and he's like, you know what? Trump was on to something. Yes, we hate China. We're orienting our foreign policy as antagonistic to China. We think we can be dominant in East Asia, which makes no fucking sense whatsoever. Y'all need to go listen to American Prestige. Go read my man Danny Bessner. He actually did a nice interview in Jacobin Mag. Go read that. My man Daniel Bessner, friend of the show. Just the idea that we should be dominant in East Asia is absurd. Just imagine if China was like, we should be dominant in Mexico. We should be dominant in South America. Like, no, like we can't be dominant forever in East Asia. That's China's domain. Like, eventually they're going to take over because it's their fucking right to as a global power in their own region. It doesn't make any sense. But whatever. So sorry, guys. I'm just taking y'all down the timeline. So Joe Biden comes in, and instead of being like, you know what? Remember, he was supposed to be this big repudiation of Trump and yada, yada, yada. But on foreign policy, no, Trump had something. Trump was onto something. Now, fast forward through Joe Biden's freaking presidency. Guess what? The Democrats sufficiently antagonized, sometimes rightly, sometimes I think quite wrongheadedly, to be honest. I think, so I'm going to give you two examples when I mean that. They antagonized the tech sector. I think the blaming Zuckerberg and Facebook for Hillary Clinton's loss to Donald Trump and Cambridge Analytica and Russian bots and Russian influence and misinformation and blah, blah, blah. And then the insane crackdowns during the pandemic of like people couldn't even openly discuss and question the sort of rollout of our mandates on these platforms. That was a freaking mistake, especially the whole blaming Zuckerberg. Because I think with the COVID stuff, they could have kind of made the argument like, oh, we're doing it with science and it's for the safety of the people. And if you don't do this, you're literally killing people and blah, blah. It was crazy, big brother. You could kind of make that case. Bro, blaming Facebook and Zuckerberg for Trump winning in 2016 was insane in real time. They antagonized him. And then not only did they do that, they got their freaking homies in corporate media, CNN, MSNBC, Washington Post, New York Times, The Atlantic, et cetera, their freaking attack dogs to attack this guy in their media. So they basically made an enemy out this guy when they didn't need to. And now Zuckerberg has decided, all right, I'm throwing in with Trump and them. This is the way the wind is blowing. That was a mistake. So that's a one thing. The Democrats antagonize big tech and small tech, just generally speaking. I think sometimes, like a lot of the antitrust stuff, I actually bang with that. But some of this other stuff was unnecessary, unforced errors. And like someone like Google, to be honest, like Google more than all of them, internally in the boardroom is actually like way more liberal leaning, like actually genuinely than pretty much all the other ones. And so I don't think Google will ever be a full-throated, like and I know this because I know people that have worked there, like crazy whatever, foaming at the mouth, right winger. Like they're not like crazy, whatever. But these other cats, bro, like who really only ever cared about their own bottom line and were mostly paying you lip service because one, their workforce, they didn't want a workforce mutiny because even if the crazy oligarchs are mostly libertarian, sicko, right-wing sickos, the actual workforce, like at a place like Meta, at a place like Google, at a place like Apple, I bet you if you look that up, overwhelmingly voted Democrat. So like they couldn't really take some aggressive posture of like, we're going to be right wing now. They would have a mutiny on their hands internally, especially in the environments in place in times like 2016, where like 2020, where like we were having the great awakening and like you couldn't really do that because of the workforce. Anyway, they antagonized these guys both rightfully and wrongfully. And so Elon, they like contested his freaking bonus. Like they was doing a lot. Again, I think the bonus thing was kind of silly, although the stuff with his labor practices, yeah, that was right. So that's what I mean. Like they really sometimes wrong-headed, sometimes rightly, right? Oh shit. Whoops. Fuck. Jerv, I think my mic just broke. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Looks like I'm gonna have to whatever. I'm just gonna have to hold it, guys, for the rest of the show. Give me a second here. We're live. Damn. That's almost 4 years of me jostling with this thing and treating it like God knows what. It's finally giving out on me. Sorry. Anyway, so antagonizing these guys, whatever. So now these guys, a couple of things happen with Trump. One, first, what happens? These billionaires who have a lot of business in China throw in with Trump, Elon being number one of that, to the tune of $250 million. So that matters. Two, Trump himself becomes popular on TikTok. So we know, what do we know about Trump? Like he's a very venal, vain guy. Like this guy, like, yo, they like me on TikTok. The billionaires like me and they're giving me money for my campaign and they put me back in the seat of power. I've changed my mind. Like, again, it bears to be saying like this guy Trump is not ideological. You know how somebody like me might call myself, I'm a man of the left. I'm a leftist. I'm a socialist. I'm a blah, 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 whatever, right? Like ideological down the line. Like you pick the topic. I know where I stand because of my own ideology. And most people, by the way, thankfully aren't psychopathic ideologues like I am. I don't think most people need to be that. However, I happen to be, right? And Trump isn't. He's not libertarian all the way. He's not some neocon who wants to start a war with every single nation ever existed. Obviously, he's not a liberal. And obviously, he's not of the left, right? Like he doesn't really have some strident ideology that he adheres to. So a lot of this stuff is very malleable. And I think that's what the rich dudes love and hate about him. It's like, yo, he really will bang with the last person in the room that he spoke to. And so this freaking Mark Andreessen dude is like heavily invested in ByteDance, heavily invested in TikTok, gave a shit ton of money to Trump's campaign. He's in Trump's ear. He's like, nah, son, we got to stop with the TikTok ban. So Trump now does a whole 180 when, like, not only did he pioneered the anti-China, and the anti-TikTok was an extension. The freaking Democrats, because they're freaking hawks, they're like, oh, hell yeah, start a new Cold War, let's do that. They jumped on the bandwagon. So now this thing has bipartisan support, because we know, hawkish posture towards all of our quote unquote perceived enemy. That's a uniparty issue. That thing is unilateral. We want to make war somewhere. We want to give Israel all the money, Ukraine more money, more bombs, $1 trillion military budget. That thing sails through Congress, right? And so Trump starts a freaking wave that gets bipartisan support. And now we've come to the point where Trump is against the wave that he completely started on his own. So to the point where now we're reading in the New York Times, President-elect Donald Trump is considering an executive order to allow TikTok to continue operating despite a pending legal ban until new owners are found, according to a person with knowledge of the matter. The possible executive order, reported earlier by the Washington Post, is under discussion as TikTok faces a deadline on Sunday to be banned in the United States unless it finds a new owner. The popular video sharing app is owned by ByteDance, a Chinese company. Republicans have said for years that they see the app, which has been downloaded to hundreds of millions of smartphones, as national security risk. Has become a rare issue that has united both parties in Congress. If the Supreme Court, which just looks like they're going to, upholds the law, yada, 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 yada. Trump is now talking about, I'm going to try to save it. We're done with that, Jerv. Now, where do I stand on the TikTok thing? Personally. And I don't look, I'm not really like super passionate about this thing one way or another. Keep TikTok, leave TikTok. I don't care. But I do think TikTok should be banned, and here's why. Facebook is banned in China. Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Google, YouTube, you name it, it is banned in China. So to me, it's like, you ban our shit, your shit is banned too. So China has what is called the Great Firewall up there, and literally, like, you can't get none of this American shit in there. And the reason why, and we know the reason why, and this is why I'm just annoyed by how politics go. The reason why is because they know if they allowed this shit into their country, our government would do everything in their power to try to propagandize their citizens. That's what we do. We would try to sow chaos. We would try to sow dissent. That's what we do against our enemies, period. What the hell you think Radio Free Europe is, man? That's back when there was an East and West Berlin. We had that shit to try to propagandize the freaking East Berliners. Of course, that was CIA. Of course, that's what we do. We got 1 trillion TikToks all around the world trying to propaganda these folks. What do you think American pop culture is? In its embrace of consumerism and capitalism. What do you think it is? And in its embrace of the established order in America, never revolutionary at all. It's propaganda. That's what we do here. So of course the Chinese are using it to do it to us. I might happen to agree with some of the propaganda they're spinning every now and again, but that's why. That's what we do. And that's what we would do if they allowed our social medias in there. So to me, I just think fair is fair. You guys don't, like, look, even Disney movies. This is not like me, conspiracy theory, whatever, you name it. Disney movies that they show out in China. There's a freaking board in China that gives these fools guidelines. The movies we're watching are executive produced by China. Disney movies, 100%. Don't get it twisted. Don't think Iron Man and all of that stuff isn't CIA propaganda too. Don't get me started on Black Panther and the CIA propaganda. Hollywood's open for business in terms of who's allowed to propagandize us. But like, yeah, China don't play that shit. And you know what other social media is not allowed in China? Chinese owned TikTok. TikTok's not allowed in China, y'all. Like, what are we doing? What are we talking about here? Of course we should ban their stuff. Of course we should ban them, guys. Like, of course. Oh my goodness. Of course we should ban this. Hold on. Okay. Yeah. So of course I think we should ban it. Now, look, I understand the other argument for not banning TikTok. Shouts to the homies at Breaking Points. Like Crystal Ball brought this up. She was like, look, yo, like during the freaking genocide, TikTok was one of the only places you could see unfettered information about the atrocities that were being carried out by the IDF. And I think that's a valid critique of my position here. I truly do think that's a valid critique. I really do think that having TikTok here under Chinese ownership, and again, what do I think that is? I think that's the Chinese being like, let that through. Let the American youth learn about this. Proliferate that. Push that through. Yeah. We want to sow dissent. We want to freaking break up the freaking consensus in the New York Times and the Atlantic and MSNBC and CNN. There's a freaking consensus. Dana Bash, god damn, is she an Israeli military mouthpiece? You name it. Yeah. And I think that is a valid critique. I really, truly do think that. But for me, again, it's just fair is fair, bro. Let our shit through and we'll let your shit through. How about that? And I do think, and I do think there's something to what my guy Ben Taylor says, where he's like, you know what, we shouldn't be trying to out China in terms of being censorious and all of that stuff, and basically tamping down on content. Like, I'm sympathetic to that. I do think there is something to like, y'all. I mean, a lot of people wouldn't realize this here, but like, we think of Europe as our, sort of our brothers and all of that in the West. They don't have a thing called free speech. We're the only ones, and there is something to that uniqueness that's encoded into our laws and Constitution, right? Like, I think that is important. You know what I mean? But listen, bro. I just think we should ban it. Like, again, and that's not, and again, it's not like I agree with, and it's not like I agree with the stuff that we do. Like, a lot of times we're doing this, we're hitting the fainting couch. Oh, the Russians did election interference. They've interfered with our democracy. We take democracy so serious here. Oh, democracy. These cheap ass, weak ass bots the Russians brought in 2016. Nobody's minds were changed by these bots. And you compare that to actual coups we've backed, not like some leaflet and propaganda campaign to get our preferred freaking stooge up there to do our bidding in Central, South America, Middle East, East Asia. You freaking name it. Southeast Asia. Like, I mean, god damn, the Khmer Rouge. How you think that thing got started? Like, are you kidding? Are you shitting me? The amount of election interference we've done, Allende, I mean, the list goes on and on. Patrice Lumumba, like, bruh, that was us. In terms of tampering with, people's governments and their election, like, that's what we do. That's what American media is. It's propaganda for the global order, period. Jason Bourne, I tell y'all this shit all the time. Jason Bourne is CIA propaganda. They want you to think every CIA agent is this hyper competent dude that could fight, that could scale buildings, that could drive stick shift, that could speak 7 languages. And it's cap. It's all nonsense, bro. But, I'm for the TikTok ban. Look, I hate that the creators are going to lose their jobs. I do think you guys can go to, and I get it. We hate Mark Zuckerberg right now, and I know that would make him infinitely more powerful for the reels to just completely engulf the TikTok market, whatever. I don't know. I get that, but I don't know. I don't think that's that big of a deal, to be honest with you. But Yeah, I just hate, I really do. As much as I want, as much as I agree that TikTok should be banned, I hate the way it's like, oh, we want to protect your privacy. The Chinese government's gonna take our data. It's like, shut your dumb ass up. Please, our data's gone. Anybody wants our data, somebody as powerful as the Chinese government wants data from the internet. They can't get their hands on it from TikTok. Are you kidding me? Insanity. Insanity, dude. Anyway, just quickly on the ceasefire. I know if you read the news, they're saying there's some hemming and hawing. Honestly, guys, from best I can do from all the stuff that I've read, listen to pods, people that would actually know, Israeli journalists on the ground. Um, the idea that Bibi's gonna like start Trump off with his administration with egg on his face after Trump already said this thing is delivered. I don't think it's gonna happen. I really do think this deal is gonna go through. I think they're dragging their feet because what Trump has said is before my inauguration, which basically means by Sunday. And I think they're going to get it done by Sunday. I think Bibi's just like, fuck it. Let's commit a couple more atrocities while we can. And go ahead and sign this thing on Sunday and go ahead and move on. And I think Trump has promised them a goodie that he can take back to, the ghoulish ass right wing that's in Israel, and they can be happy enough. They want to keep the war going. We know what they want. They want freaking ethnic cleansing. They want every Palestinian the hell up out the Gaza Strip, every single Palestinian the hell up out the West Bank. That's what their dream is. That's what they're working towards. And anything that sort of impedes that ultimate goal is not going to really fly, especially rhetorically, against the within the right wing of Israel. However, there are realities on the ground. He's just averse to this thing. He say what you want about Trump. He has an instinct for understanding that having these wars and these atrocities happening on your watch is chaos, and it hurts you with the public. And he's clearly told this dude, I'm going to give you some goodies, but you have to stop this shit now. You've had 15 months. And so I truly, really believe that this thing is going to stop. And the last thing that I will say, Joe Biden, history is going to judge this dude quite horribly. I think what this has shown is that Trump using any leverage whatsoever on these guys, and they basically stopped, showed that Joe Biden essentially agreed with what they were doing over there. 100% full stop. He was 100% completely behind the genocide. 100%. No objection whatsoever. Lockstep with every single thing the Israelis have done in the last 15 months. Every atrocity committed, Joe Biden and Blinken and his regime were in lockstep with that. That is breathtaking. Breathtaking, y'all. Completely breathtaking. And so, yeah, man. Anyway, that's our show for today. We will see you guys next week. We're back up and running. Appreciate you guys, all the well wishes that I got on the internet. I'm straight, my people straight. Yeah, man. We will see you guys next week. We're out of here. Peace.